Droomy is made for the simple pleasure of being alive. Created from recycled ocean plastic and inspired by the cool elegance of island living, our mattresses turn waste into luxurious modern comfort. No frills, no gadgets, just the pure state of being. The art of unplugging from the world outside and connecting to the one inside. So clear your conscience, find your center, and experience the comfort of true peacefulness. Because life begins the moment you open your eyes.
Hi, I'm Marni Katz, otherwise known as Style Carrot, and I'm the interior design writer for Boston Globe magazine. You have joined us for our first webinar of At Home, a series of discussions with local design professionals. Our first guest is Holly Gagne. She comes to you from her beautiful barn on the North Shore. Holly has a master's of interior architecture from Boston Architectural College, and she focuses on how to bring harmony to your everyday life through design. You'll be able to ask her questions in the text box at the bottom of your screen, which we'll get to about halfway through. And thank you to those who submitted questions already when you registered. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, Droomy. You may have seen a lot of the ads that Droomy's been running lately. I know they're all over my social, on my Instagram feed and my Facebook feed. And it's an eco-conscious mattress company based in Boston. And they are guided by the principle that you can combine luxury, environmentally friendly construction, and comfort all at the same time. I actually wrote about them in my Obsessions column earlier this year. And what struck me about Droomy was that unlike all the other mattress startups, they're not one of those bed in a box situations. They actually come to your house in a contactless way these days to set your bed up. They deliver all through Massachusetts. And they provide hybrid mattresses, which means that they have individually wrapped coils topped by eco-friendly latex, topped by heat-wicking foam, so it sleeps cool, all wrapped up in this soft cotton cover made from upcycled marine plastic. And they're really committed to cleaning the oceans from marine litter and restoring coral reefs. They have offered all of you a thank you code for joining us today. It's Globe 200 for $200 off a purchase, and we will be sending that out to you when we wrap everything up. So, okay, the focus of today's webinar is how to create a quiet space in your action-packed home. Home is our sanctuary now more than ever. It's really important that we feel safe here. I've worked from home for 15 years now. So I've kind of been in training for this, and my kids are teenagers, so it's really peaceful around here because they don't even wake up till 3 o'clock. But I know a lot of you are feeling like perhaps there's a bit too much togetherness right now. So Holly, I would love if you could speak to us if what you're hearing from clients. I'm sure there's so many people desperate for alone time space and just a little slice they can carve out no matter how small their home is for alone time. So I'll let you take this away.
Thanks, Marni. I think that was perfectly put. I think that right now we have to understand that we've actually gone through a pretty solid 2 months of being in this situation. So for all of you out there, kudos to you for sort of making it this far. And you've probably learned a lot about yourself and your situation. And so this is probably a great time to actually talk about this. So I'm excited to have an active dialogue about it. Generally speaking, we all need a quiet space. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert, an extrovert, what your personality type is. Generally speaking, when you're trying to put a lot of activities into your home, you really need to be able to have time to process your day. You need to kind of set yourself up to be organized for the next day or for the day that's to come. And you just, even if it's a couple moments of time to really just decompress and process. I realize we're all kind of going through this at different levels. Some of us have multiple people in their homes at different age groups. And, one of my friends, a couple weeks into this, had called me and said, the only place that I can get peace and quiet is in my bathroom with the door locked, sitting on the toilet, where I can actually check my email in peace and quiet. And there's so much validity to that. I have 2 young kids. I have a husband who's a super loud talker on Zoom. I'm on Zoom all the time, so I can 100% relate. And so how can we create, these little moments of peace and quiet to just decompress and get ourselves ready to do what we need to do?
So when the Globe told me that this was going to be the topic, I was actually really excited, not because I have sort of a Zen zone, because I definitely don't, but apparently I'm a bit about like the only person in Boston that doesn't. I'm working on a story for this, for the June 7th address section of the Globe, a feature. And I've heard from so many designers already, including Holly, about all these spaces that they create for their clients, their yoga rooms and meditation gardens and no electronic zones. There's one designer who even created a chapel in his home. So I just thought it would be fun. We can look at a couple of these wow spaces and then we can move on to things that are more attainable for people like us.
Great.
All right. Slide 1. Okay, awesome. So these are just a few spaces that I came across. The first one is a tented-like room that's in a turret, in a tower, a turret tower in a home that Leandra Fremont Smith designed this room. The second one is a stunning minimalist townhouse on the flat of the hill that Hassin and Associates renovated and restored. And that's their meditation space with this amazing view of the public garden. And the next one is from Colin Flavin, who put together this Zen meditation garden in the middle of Cambridge with a koi pond and a waterfall. So good for them. I wish I had those spaces myself. It's more common. I could totally use that garden. It's more common though to have a multi-purpose space. You might have a room that you can devote to setting up lots of different zones in. Maybe it's a guest room. Maybe, this space right here has been designed by Concord designer Meredith Roddy, and it's for a family in Rhode Island. And this is a space sort of on the second floor outside the bedrooms, and it works really well as a work area, a TV lounge, a reading nook, and just sort of general all-around escape. So Holly, I'll let you sort of address like why this room works so well and what people can do to help define zones in a space they might have.
Yeah, and I want to take one quick step back to the wow spaces, because I think what we all use wow spaces and inspiration spaces, you sort of have to start there, because you need to define what feels good to you. And sometimes we can't do that when we're in our own space. And so if you can go to those inspiration images, look at them and say, why does this feel good to me? and start to kind of pick that apart and diagnose it. That's really going to help set you up for this process of setting up your own space. Most of us don't have the luxury of having a dedicated room for every activity and every person who has their own activity. So we're going to be faced with these multifunctional spaces where we have to do a couple of different activities, and it may include a couple of different people in one small space. Even if it's a larger space, you're going to be dealing with the same thing. So I think what makes Meredith's room really successful and achievable is that there are multiple pieces of furniture that allow for different types of activities, but they are all activities that are in harmony with each other. So, I think you can have a desk where you can sit and work and do homework or work on your computer, or have a phone call, have a Zoom call, look out the window for a moment of repose, sit on the sofa and have a casual conversation with a friend. A teen could be in there on their PlayStation, sitting there kind of hanging out and relaxing. A child could be pulling bins of toys out of that cabinet and playing on the floor while their parent is sitting at the desk and working. What makes this successful is just the flow and the circulation of the space, and you're not trying to put activities in there that are going to be super competitive with each other. So this wouldn't work if you tried to put a big treadmill in here and somebody was trying to sit at the desk and you're trying to do those two activities together. But what you could do is you could put rolled up yoga mats and props in that basket, which you see on the little left corner there. And because there's enough floor space, you can easily transition to a nice area to do yoga or stretching, or just like a lesser impact workout. And so, you can sort of achieve all these different activities without really interfering with the space, and because there's so much flex with that open area. Think about also, can you create every space, every activity, every zone that you have in here for each activity, can you get it back to that reset button easily? And so if you walked in here and there were toys all over the floor because your kid was playing on the floor, and that's great, would you feel like you want to sit in there and do work? If you had the yoga mats everywhere and the pillows everywhere, would you feel like you want to lay on the couch and have a rest? And so at the end of every activity, we have to set that area up so that it's easy to put it away and back to that reset space. And this is going to just offer each person who needs to use the space either together or separately the ability to sort of come in and have it be successful for what they need. So at the desk, if you have your computer and files and supplies, can you put them in the drawers afterwards, close them up? Maybe that desk turns into a bar at night and your family's sitting there with TV, and you can make some cocktails and relax. And you can't do that if your desk is full of files and supplies and things like that. So, it's really about creating that harmony of activity within a space. So I would actually say that there's kind of 3 key steps in summary of what you can do to achieve this. Number 1 is you've got to have open communication with your family unit or anybody who's sharing your home. You need to talk about the activities that you need to do, what and when, and what are the items that you need to be successful. Is it a desk? Is it a sofa? What is it? And really kind of talk about that and try and set up a schedule. If it's got to be at the same time, that might dictate how you lay it out in the room. And so first, it's a conversation. Number 2 is to take that information and then physically map it out in your space. What's going to fit, but still allow comfort, still allow circulation, still allow flex. You don't want to fill this space up. And number 3, once you kind of set up your zones, go through that decluttering process of like, what is the most essential thing for me to have to do my activity? If you don't need to see all of your 20 different files and stacks of paper for your work activity, put it out of sight, put it somewhere else. That's really precious real estate that could be used for something better. go through each zone and really declutter and only keep there what you need for that activity. I'll just say in summary, our homes are currently set up for what our previous normal was. And we've got to think of it that our home, we're asking a lot of it to just be able to flex with this new situation. We have to do the work. We have to think about what we need now, and we should just set up our spaces now. You know, my kids are not going back to school until September at least. My husband's probably not going back to work for a couple months. You've been in it for a couple months, you know what you need. Go through the process now to set it up and tee it up right and get rid of the stuff that's not supporting the success of that.
Right,
space.
no more formal dining rooms, right?
And that is one of the spaces that has immediately gone away. It's become a playroom, it's become a workout room. But if you're using that twice a year for holidays, that is precious real estate that you should take over for sure.
Okay, great. So declutter, organize, limit activities, and set up a schedule, get buy-in from everybody. Good luck.
Yes.
Okay, but what if you're in like a teeny tiny little apartment? I heard from a lot of people who sent questions in that they're in condos, they're in small spaces, or what if you just need your alone time and it's not your time on your schedule that you set up?
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a common situation. I think we all have corners in our rooms unless they're round. And so the great thing about a corner is it's super comforting and cozy and secure. So you can create a sense of control in a corner because you could sort of face yourself into the main space and understand what's happening around you. So it's a really great opportunity. This image right here is a project we did in Manchester. They have the luxury of this amazing, you know, lots of glass where they can kind of look out the window and but you can see it's not a big space and it doesn't take a lot. And you've got to think about what are the activities that you want to do and that's going to create a quiet, calm feel for you. How many things can you do in a corner? You can play an instrument, you can play music, you can put noise canceling headphones on and, you know, listen to your favorite podcast or a Netflix show. You can read, you can journal, you could move this chair and do yoga. You don't need a lot of physical space to do a lot of the activities that actually bring us calm. The one thing I would say when you set up a corner is make sure that it's teed up for success. So it's got all the stuff that you need to do your activities. So it's sort of like pulling you there. The worst thing you can do is take over this corner and the space and never use it. And you won't use it if it's not set up for exactly what you need it for. So kind of
not a junk space.
Yeah, kind of get out of the zone of this has to be beautiful right now. It really has to be functional for you. And it really doesn't want to be filled with a lot of stuff because it's not a lot of space.
Right. For that other story, I was talking to a designer in Portsmouth and she sent me a little picture and she said, this is my chair in my bedroom. She had a little table set up next to it with crystals and a candle and a diffuser and her journal. And she said, there's a very strict rule in her house. And she says, if the door is closed, her family knows not to knock unless it is life-threatening.
Well, that goes back to that communication thing. It's just set your boundaries. When you can set up your own space and diagnose exactly what you need and you can communicate that, you have taken control over your space. And it doesn't matter if you're a 1-year-old or 100 years old. When we have control over our environment, it's successful.
Great. Let's look at the idea of sort of calm and recognizing what is calm for you. I know I'm incredibly keenly aware of my surroundings and sort of my aesthetic and what works for me. And I know I feel most centered when I'm at my desk and my calendar is color coded with all my deadlines. It's all about the highlighters. Yes, I work on a paper calendar. But I can actually do my work anywhere and it's not even at my desk. It's, you know, have laptop, will travel. But I do like to be near a window, preferably it's sunny out with a light breeze. that doesn't always happen. And I also always have art around me. I know I have a huge art collection and I like to switch it up, and what's around me makes me feel good. So when I'm glancing up from the computer, I sort of recenter. How can people learn if they're not sure what makes them calm? Is there anything that people can sort of look to?
Well, I think that was what you're talking about is really the heart of it. You have gone through that inward process of diagnosing what makes you calm, and you can verbalize it. That is like the start of any design process. You have to go through that. I might be coming in designing a space for somebody else, but I don't live there. I need to get from that person what it is that they need to function and sort of, be the best that they want to be in their space. And so it's just a process of thinking about, when are you the most calm? Is it an activity that you do? Is it an exercise class that you take? Is it just when you're sitting watching Netflix? Is it, sitting by the beach? Is it, going for a bike ride? What are the things that make you the most calm? For me, I grew up in Maine. I'm a total nature girl. I love going on hikes, and it doesn't matter the headspace that I am in when I start that hike. I could be grumpy. I could feel sick. I could feel sad, whatever it is. I instantly get out of my head when I'm on a hike. And it, for me, it's just all the natural surroundings. It's the sensory experience. It's the smells. You kind of think of like childhood nostalgia, right? What are the things that you sort of like remember when you're experiencing something? And so for me, it's like that smell of like earthy things are growing, and green is my favorite color because it just means growth and it's not like dead in winter. It's the textural things like the roots and the leaves and the flora and the sense of that. So if you can put yourself kind of mentally in that space of where you're most calm and you get out of your head, I think you can start to easily translate that into design elements. For me, I can tell you that I love nature in any way in my space, and that translates to colors and textures and certain patterns that I love, and really soft, furry things. And I think if you go through that process, you'll immediately be able to literally translate it into a design element.
All right, oh, sorry. I was going to say, let's look at some rooms with textural elements if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So the first one, well, Holly, why don't you talk about that first one then? Go ahead. This is a room that Holly actually designed. So.
Yeah, so ironically, this room was actually installed about a week before everybody kind of went into their lockdown mode. This was a wife who just really wanted her own calm space where she didn't have to worry about people messing it up. It has a door on it. And everything for her in the design of this space was about touch. It was the texture. And I think, sometimes when we're helping people design their space and we're picking fabrics for a sofa or a chair, they get really obsessed with the maintenance factor of it. And I totally understand that. But sometimes we deprive ourselves of things when we put so much thought into it like that. So can you, for just this one spot, go luxurious with whatever really connects to you? For her, it was just like furs and, textural things and soft things that she would want to go in there and spend time. So touch is such an important thing.
And then
scent, yes. So scent for me goes back to that nostalgia thing again. Kind of think about what different scents do to you and what relaxes you the most. There are some really great, candles, essential oil diffusers. My kids actually, we put a diffuser in their room before they go to sleep every night, and they call it a smelly thing. And it's like the sign of it's time to go to bed and it's time to relax and it's time to calm down. Right. And they have a really hard time doing that now without that. And it's one of those sensory things that you just sort of connect with.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, I did lemon essential oil before this, sort of for like a little like
energetic, yes.
Right. Okay, so touch, smell, sight, of course, is a big one. That middle picture is actually a home designed by none other than Walter Gropius and Marcel Breuer, and iconic Bauhaus architects. And they really embrace the idea of bringing the outdoors in. I know that's such a buzzword right now. Everybody wants to bring the outdoors in, or everybody's designers do anyway. And this house is really set up for that. It's just windows on this wooded site. And so Hannah Cushman, who the homeowners hired to pick like very intentional furnishings in very intentional places. And this is just a simple bench in front of this window where people can go and sort of contemplate the wooded view in this very quiet living room, or, you know, use it as extra seating if they're having a party.
Yeah, this is, so I don't know if you've heard of biophilic design, but it's just this concept that humans connect so much with nature because it's familiar to them. And that translates into, like, you know, maybe a pattern on a wallpaper or a fabric. But being able to see nature, even if you can't be in it, has such a strong resonance with our health. And it's been diagnosed to just be a healthy thing for us. So I think wherever we can achieve that, whatever it looks like, you know, get the heavy drapes off your windows, really just at this point, it's so important to have that connection, even if you can't physically experience it.
Right. And then quickly, and hopefully we'll do another webinar just completely dedicated to outdoor design, but I just wanted to quickly bring this photo up. I think it's sort of a patio, and it's a sort of a simple water feature there, because sound is, of course, also important, both blocking out sound and bringing in soothing sounds.
Absolutely. And I mean, you could even just use in your space a noise machine. You can get them super cheap on Amazon, just to block out other noise that you might not want to hear. Maybe somebody is on the phone all the time. Sound is such an important way how we process calm and quiet.
Right. Okay. And then the last slide that we have for you is the idea of movement, and the idea that movement can settle you too. We know a lot of that from sort of sensory integration things with people's kids, and wrapping them up in blankets, and those weighted blankets that are so popular now. They've come into the mainstream. But I like this room, this corner, it's like this dreamy corner of a bedroom in Concord. And they put in one of those hanging chairs that are so on trend right now, and then putting a hammock in the screened porch that Stephanie Rossi did in this house that she helped design for a couple. I think it was in New Hampshire, but it was on a lake, and they use it on rainy days. It makes more indoor space out of outdoor space.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we're in such a stationary point right now, not being able to do the normal activity and movement we're used to. And so if you can create that movement somehow, I mean, think about how many people fall asleep in a moving vehicle, or, you know, rocking a baby to sleep. It just is like this very calming motion. And so if you can do that anywhere in your home, I think it's great.
All right. So that will wrap up the sort of how-to portion of our program. And a bunch of you sent in not just questions, but pictures. Thank you so much. Holly had the time to go through them, and we chose one, possibly two, I'm not sure, it depends how much time we have, to look at. And Holly will give a little redesign of your space. So, okay, so this is a space by, of all people, my son's preschool teacher. He's graduating from high school next week. But hi, Miss Laura. Holly's gonna help you out with your space here.
I guess that should be nice. No. Yeah, no, this is hard because I don't have the luxury of talking to somebody. So I can't kind of run through my normal questions of what do you really need in this space? But in general, I would say this one is not doing so bad. I can see that it's trying to do that thing of like a couple of different activities within one space. And I appreciate that they're in zones. So they're kind of separated from each other. And there's a nice open area on the floor, which allows for that flex. And so you can see, looks like she does yoga sometimes. Also, I imagine you kind of need some physical space around the laundry to get at it, or the file cabinet over there, the printer. So I think the flow and the layout of this is working pretty well. I would just maybe question a couple of things. Like if you are doing really important calls from this space and you're in it a lot, is the washer and dryer loud? I think the curtains work really well for this space, but if you're going to be in there a lot and you're doing laundry, and my laundry is super crazy and it sounds like it's possessed, that's going to be really distracting for me. And so maybe you want to invest at this point in putting some doors on that space. When you do that, it's going to challenge the file cabinet and the printer to the left of it. But I also feel like having to walk across your space to grab something off of a printer is maybe a little bit of a frustrating flow when you're in it. I don't know if that's a closet next to the desk. Is there space in there to put your printer in there? Is there space to, sort of like lighten up all the files that I see? Just starting to really make use of your different areas. I see there's an open shelf above the laundry, but it looks like there's a lot of space available above that.
Your shelves.
Yeah, use vertical in the space. Everything is down really low. And I think, they've done well down there, but think of how much they could eliminate by just putting things up high. Maybe they have really cool racks for their yoga mats, and they're rolled up kind of on the wall or behind the door, doing like a file bin system where you put all your files on the wall. Maybe you want a shelf or two above your desk to get everything off your desk so that you can actually switch between different activities. I would also ask, is that stool really comfortable to sit and do a lot of work at? That might be something you want to invest in. And going back to the point of like, was this room set up for life before? Or should you take the time now to rearrange it? Would you rather have your desk in front of a window because that just brings you calm? That's the kind of conversation you've got to have with yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I have a thing. It costs like, I don't know, $15, and it's a fabric or canvas pocket organizer. And it's like inside my closet door next to my desk. And when I'm done with my notes for my story, I put them in there until it's time to write the captions and close the door and gone. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
There is something like visual clutter creates stress and anxiousness, and it prevents most people from really being able to be successful in what they need to spend their time in. Anything that you can do to eliminate that will be helpful.
So we have about 12 minutes. Do we want to do another picture, Holly, or do you want to go to Q&As?
Let's do one more picture, because I think this is probably good exercise in using what we've talked about and applying it to space. So I know this person in particular was asking, now their kids are home, how do you combine the adult working and the child doing homeschooling successfully in a space? And I think just really quickly, I would go back to, was this space set up for this situation? Do you need the couch in here? I know that might be painful, but unless you're a therapist and you're, needing somebody to lay on your couch, I would rather see your child at a table with an organized setup for their crafts rather than on the floor. And that just might be the best use of that space right now. You can create tables really easily. Maybe you have 2 low bookshelves that you can put a surface on, or we even have those like workhorses that you kind of put plywood on to do, work. I think
concrete blocks and a board.
Yeah, like anything that you can do. You can also shop on places like Wayfair, IKEA, and get something really economical online delivered to your door. Set it up for now. This might be a situation you're going to be in for a couple months. And peace of mind now is most important. I'm also seeing like a lot of collector's items on the desk. Can we just put that away for right now? Can we just kind of pare down books that you're not using right now, files that you're not using right now. Maybe the wall becomes this really great pinup board for your kids' organization, of all the classwork they have to do or the art that they're doing and they want to display it. Think about, again, that like, what is precious real estate and where is it best used right now?
Get rid of those diplomas, put up your kids' art.
And we can bring that back someday. But I think like when you're asking about space and I see you have it, it's just a matter of rethinking it right now.
All right. So let's do a couple of Q&As. We got tons. We sorted through them. So if we feel like we've covered your question already, we'll probably skip it. But we have some other ones. Sound was a big thing. I had one question. It says, we have 3 people working from home who are constantly Zooming. Our walls are thin and apparently I speak loudly. What should I do?
I can relate. There's a series of things that you just have to go through. First of all, it's that communication together. Can you somehow schedule your calls at different times where you're not all going to sort of be competing for this? Another thing is there just like a space in your house that you haven't thought of that could be creatively used? I actually made my husband move into our master closet to do some Zoom calls because it was just, it was really hard for us to work kind of when we're both on these presentations at the same time and feeling like somebody might interrupt us.
I hope you have a walk-in closet.
Yeah, so walk-in closet. Can you set up a little space with like a cool background for a Zoom call? Sure. Maybe it's like just a stair hallway. Maybe it's just a nook that you
at the top of the stairs is really popular.
Yeah. But as far as acoustics go, there are things that you can do. Add as many rugs as possible. Drapery, curtains, anything that's going to absorb noise. There's actually some great acoustic panels that you can purchase online and just put them on your walls. If there's actually a wall that's dividing 2 workspaces, that's going to be really successful. So textiles is really my big answer there.
All right. And so since Zoom is the thing, Zoom backdrops, people want just a couple of tips on making a professional, beautiful Zoom backdrop.
I would say less is more. And why can't it be about the amazing clothing you have, And so I think
I went opposite. Plain clothing, amazing art.
I think you got to pick it. You can't have all these competing elements. If you're like a fashionista, you should have a really calm background and think about it in tandem. So I always think a general white background is going to be the best, and then go in with accents. What is it that you're trying to communicate to the people who are on this call? Is it a level of professionalism? Is it a level of creativity? Is it a calming thing? And try and bring in objects that kind of enhance that. You did a great job, but everything is white, and then you've got these really pretty pieces of art. And there's not a lot competing with it. I think when we try and put too many things to show things off, I've seen a lot of bookcases where there's just tons of stuff on it. And the whole call, people are going to be looking at the stuff rather than you. And so it's that balance, right? Of like,
maybe people want that.
Maybe they just, fine.
More fun to look at everyone's book. Let's see, what about color? The impact of color, choosing a color without going to the paint store. Somebody wants a soothing blue, maybe just a couple of points on color.
Yeah, go back to your inward process of thinking about really what calms you. If this is trying to be calm, if you're trying to bring in energy, color is emotional. And for extroverts, it looks different. Introverts, it looks different. Different personalities, it looks different. So you've got to kind of go through that process of what is it that you're trying to create for a feel that will lead you to the right color. Generally, I am a neutral person because when I am in my home, I want to be calm. There's a lot of noise. And so I find that heavy colors just don't give that to me. They create too much energy. And so I think you can always be safe if you don't know where to start with just a light neutral. There are so many great online sources. most of the large paint retailers, you can order samples online, but you can also look at the colors in a space online and really understand what it does to the feel, and does that feel right? There's also an online place called Sampleize where you can buy large painted samples, and peel and stick on your wall. Do that before you paint the whole thing. Really just kind of put yourself in that place of like feeling what's right for you. But yeah, I think going through that process, you'll come to the right answer.
Great. I think we have time for one or two more. Maybe one. Let's see. Well, there's two I'm fighting over. Well, somebody did in live, so let's go with the live question. She lives in a condo, a small condo, and she has been using her breakfast nook to do her work, and she's using a bar stool, and it's killing her back. She doesn't want a large desk chair taking up her space because she figures she'll go back to the office soon. Do you have any other suggestions? Not to put you on the spot.
Well, I would say, I know that is kind of our like typical thought process is I don't want to invest in anything if it's short term, but think about the physical thing that it's doing to you, where it's making you ache and feel bad, and what's more important. And you can find economical pieces that are comfortable that maybe you could put somewhere else or give to somebody else when you're done with this time. But generally speaking, you can also use cushions, layer cushions, and soft textiles to kind of give you a little bit more softness. I try and get everybody out of that mode of like temporary. I mean, right now it's so critical to kind of take care of yourself physically, mentally, do what you need right now. You can always go back when you need to.
Right. And then what about those balls that they're like the big exercise balls that they come with like $20 stands that you can do. So you sort of multitask with.
I would practice that before you go on a Zoom call, so you don't do anything.
I'm not.
But yeah, those are great. And that kind of goes with that whole motion thing. I think that's a great solution too.
So believe it or not, we're pretty much just about almost out of time. Thank you, everybody, especially Holly. I want to thank Drew Me one more time. For sponsoring this, because it's been really great that we've been able to do this. Drew Me handcrafts hybrid mattresses right here in the United States. They're a local company. When you buy their mattresses, you actually are adopting a little piece of coral. They send you a little certificate, which is kind of cute. Every purchase supports its growth. And when your little piece of coral is ready to go from the nursery to out to the coral reef where they outplant it, then I don't know if they send you a like it's all grown up kind of thing, but it's nice that they do that. They are repopulating the reef specifically near Curacao, because that's where the founders of the company are from. So you know what? We actually have time for one more. I did that really fast. Are you up for one more? We have like 3 minutes and then we'll just like be done. I love the question, how do you go minimal? How do you do a minimal space and get rid of all your clutter, but still make your space warm?
Yeah. I don't think you need stuff to make your space warm. I don't think you need a lot of it. And in fact, I think it detracts from a feeling when you have too many things. You got to strike that right balance that feels good to you. Minimal is really good for some people because they just need that clarity, and minimal is not right for other people. So kind of strike that right balance. But I would say there's usually a couple of key pieces in your space. Make them textural, make them have depth, add layers to them. And so if it's a rug, don't have this super flat weave, really thin material. Do something that's got more weight to it, more depth to the texture, really kind of let it own the space. If you have a sofa, go in and layer with throw blankets and pillows and just you know, there's just that right balance of you don't need a lot, but that kind of layering is just going to add some warmth to the space.
Adopt another pet.
Oh, I love that. Totally. And sit there, you know, patting your fluffy thing. I love that. And I think window treatments, there's so many places where you can bring in a textile that's going to give you the warmth, but it's still going to keep it a really clean space.
Great. Well, thank you, Holly, for giving us all the tips. I hope you guys out there got some good tips today, and that we answered a fair number of your questions, and that you're ready to go create your Zen zone and maybe even achieve a state of bliss. So see you next time.
Thanks, Marni.